Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Man, it's good to be back. It's good to be back. And we have NFL football a week from today. Today is Thursday, and we got the Lions and the Chargers kicking off the Hall of Fame game. And yeah, training camp started yesterday. It's an exciting time to be talking football. I'm excited to be with you guys and kind of get into the biggest stories from this past week because, man, we had quite a bit of them, and there's a lot of dynasty impact that is pretty significant. So, without being said, guys, I am just going to jump right into it. And so, let's talk about probably the biggest bombshell of the week and Rashee Rice, man, Rashee Rice. Yeah, he's going to be suspended for sure. A lot of us thought it was going to be next year in 2026. The court date was supposed to be in January, but I'm not into all that legal stuff, and I don't really know what I'm talking about. But anyways, so he received 5 years of probation and 30 years of jail time to be served in between those years. So for sure, he's probably going to suspended. I would think 4 to 6 games, at least 4 games. I would be pretty shocked if he gets 2 to 3. Um, and that changes things quite a bit for the Chiefs, the wide receiver room, and just kind of that entire offense in general. And the two main guys I want to talk about for sure is Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, because I think these are the two main culprits in this offense who are going to produce big fantasy numbers this year. Travis Kelsey is getting older. I'm not exactly worried about him, but I'm talking about the two guys, one going into their second year, one going into their third year. So I think the biggest takeaway right now is Xavier Worthy has a massive opportunity ahead of him. And I don't say that lightly. And that is me not being a huge Worthy guy. I'm a huge Texas fan, so I'm a big Worthy fan in general, but in Worthy in fantasy. So why I think this is big for Worthy is because we saw Worthy last year produce pretty big down the stretch. We saw him, especially in the playoffs. He took it into the playoffs. He had like 7 for 85 against the Bills and a touchdown. And then we saw him go absolutely nuclear against the Eagles in the Super Bowl, like 7 for 157 and 2 touchdowns, I believe. I know the game was out of hand, but I mean, he connected with Patrick Mahomes for 2 long touchdowns. And that is something that we've been waiting to see. I know Mahomes missed him a lot during the season. We could be looking back on his rookie year quite differently if they connected a couple of those times. But yeah, if Worthy can show that he is the guy down the stretch last season and the offense can play through him. If he shows that he has improved in year two and he can take that slot role, he can play outside, they can move all around the formation, and he shows a lot of improvement. Yeah, that changes a lot. If the Chiefs look like they did like 3 years ago when Mahomes was throwing 40 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, and they don't seem like they're missing a beat without Rice, I think Worthy and Rice's target share are going to be quite comparable. I think last year we saw, at least in 3 games with both of them on the field, Rashee Rice really take that like alpha role in the slot, the short 8 out throws, the PPR scam type of thing that he is. And I think Worthy can take a lot of that away, especially if he shows significant improvement in year two. If he shows that he is, a different player, if the offense can run through him, and if he can be the same player that he was down the stretch last year, the last 3, 4 games of the season, and then into the playoffs. And I don't think they're going to cater too much to Rashee Rice when he comes back. If Xavier Worthy shows that he is, taking the sleep and the offense is, firing on all cylinders. Now, for me, I definitely have Rashee Rice higher than Xavier Worthy, and that's nothing against Worthy. I think if you want to move Worthy ahead of Rice, if you want to move them right next to each other, I don't blame you whatsoever. I think that Worthy's talented. He was a first round pick out of Texas, produced really early on at Texas, broke the 40-yard dash record. Super talented guy, has a lot of like elite. He has that elite trait like downfield to just have massive blow up weeks. But I think for me, Rashee Rice is just kind of a PPR scam. He's going to catch a bunch of passes. He's going to be short 8 out guy. He's going to be that big slot type of player that you love to see. The guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of do, and he's going to be connected to Patrick Mahomes. So it's just preference for me. I'm going to have Rice ahead of Worthy, but this is a huge bump for Worthy, and Worthy has a huge opportunity. And if you're a Worthy believer, man, it's something to really buy into. And I think that if you are a believer, I would go all in on him, especially, I mean, it can pay off big time if, he has a couple 20-point games, a 30-point game at the beginning of the season with Rice off the field and shows that he's the guy, man. And that that window or that gap between those two that we thought was there can shrink or just become non-existent or in Worthy's favor. And we kind of don't know, but I think stock up for Worthy is the biggest takeaway from this. And Rashee Rice, man, it's pretty frustrating because now we have to worry about his off the field decisions, and 5 years is a long time for probation. And if he makes any bonehead decisions in between those 5 years, and we hope he doesn't, but it could be even more significant. I mean, I'm not too worried about it, especially I'm willing to make the bet on Rashee Rice. So, I'm still high on Rashee Rice, but if you want to move him down, fine. I would move Worthy up. I've already moved Worthy up. Worthy's a good talent. Worthy's attached to Patrick Mahomes. And if Mahomes returns to the form he did a couple of years ago, and there's no reason to think that, that's not in him anymore. He's, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the NFL. Worthy is going to have a big year, and probably so is Rice. But yeah, big ups on Worthy right now. All right. So let's go right into topic number two, and this is going to be a little bit of a weird one. I don't know if you guys caught this, but there was a picture circulating of Chris Godwin's ankle, man, and this is odd because I don't know if it's a wrap, I don't know if it's a brace or whatever, but the picture circulated courtesy of Jeff Mueller, who does a lot of great stuff, fantasy doctor stuff, kind of the impact that it has on these players and what the outlook should look like for the season. And he did not love this. There was also a report that came out that he had a second procedure on his ankle, the dislocated ankle that he had last year. Um, and that is also not a great thing to hear. And especially there's some optimism coming out that he's not going to be ready for week one. And if he is placed on the pup, that is massive for a guy who I am big on this year, and I am big on for his dynasty outlook in general. He was my wide receiver two in this last draft class, and that's Emeka Egbuka. And if Chris Godwin misses time, if he's not the same player, and if he goes on the pup for the first 4 games, 6 games or whatever, dude, Emeka Egbuka, excuse me, is going to have a huge role on this team. We have already seen Emeka Egbuka produce with Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, JSN, and last year Jeremiah Smith, like the best freshman wide receiver we've ever seen. We've seen him produce with studs, and it doesn't really worry me him coming into a receiver room with Mike Evans and Godwin. He's a dude. His teammates love him. His coaches love him. That is the type of buzz you want to be hearing about right now with Emeka Egbuka. I mean, that's the type of news and buzz you want to be hearing. Like, there's a lot of like fodder and stuff and things that you want to block out, and it's just kind of fake. It's kind of coaches just saying stuff, but this is coming straight from the locker room from players, and that just serves Emeka Egbuka well, and it plays right into the type of prospect he was and exactly why they took him 19th overall in the draft. A lot of people were kind of scratching their head like they just signed Godwin to this big deal. Mike Evans is still there. McMillan had a nice rookie year, but it just shows that they believe in Emeka Egbuka and they have full confidence in him. He was a 4-year guy at Ohio State, produced with all these guys, and by the way, the GM came out and said that he would have thrown up if Emeka Egbuka was gone by the time they picked, or if they would have passed on him, traded back, whatever, and not been able to get him. So that is a huge bump for Emeka Egbuka, and I think you should be buying him in Dynasty right now. Especially, with rookies, we expect them to produce later on in their rookie season and down the stretch. And with Emeka Egbuka, if he is the starting slot receiver with Godwin on the pup, and he shows that he can be a huge contributor right away, then they're not going to have to ease him in. They're not going to just have Godwin take over right away, especially with him being injured. And he's going to earn his role right away. And he is going to produce early on in the season and down the stretch as he gets used to the NFL physicality and the offense and whatnot. So huge bump for Emeka Egbuka. A wait and see for Godwin right now. And just, if you're holding Emeka Egbuka and you're competing, do not sell him. Hold him. He could be your wide receiver 2 or 3 the first couple of games of the season because Godwin is injured and he's playing in the slot. And we know Tampa Bay is going to have a really, really good offense. They're going to be high powered. They're going to throw the ball a lot. So the outlook is great for Emeka Egbuka. We love what we're hearing coming out of training camp. I'm not really worried about his role. Even when Godwin comes back, I think that it's kind of what we expected. But Emeka Egbuka is going to carve out a role. And I think that's pretty clear right now, especially with this Godwin injury and the optimism that he's not going to be ready. And we could even see Godwin not be himself until like later on, way down the stretch during the season. So that's also another plus for Emeka Egbuka, excuse me. So buy Emeka Egbuka right now. Don't wait. Before everybody hears this in your league, just go trade for him. He's a big value right now, and I think that he has really a lot of room to move up, especially a lot of people were down on him, in rookie drafts and whatnot, just because of where his landing spot was. All right, let's talk about the Jets, man. Let's talk about Breece Hall and this hypothetical Jets committee that has been circulating and kind of going crazy right now on Twitter with you know the new head coach for the Jets coming out and saying that there is going to be a three-man committee between Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and Isaiah Davis, and that they're going to rotate between the two, and they want to use all three a lot this season. And why I think this is funny is just because who exactly we're talking about and why one of those guys just doesn't make sense to be in a conversation with another. I mean, we're talking about Breece Hall here, and Breece Hall is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL, and I don't think there's any discussion. The dude just turned 24 years old. He's going into his fourth season. He's never averaged below 15 points per game in a year, even in a down year last year where things just went completely upside down. He was still at 15.1 points per game. Probably, I think he's like a mid RB2. But guys, this is silly to me because of just how good Breece Hall has been, and I don't think that a new head coach coming over from the Lions in the New York media is going to be caught with his pants down, giving the ball to Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis 15 times a game, and they're going to give the ball to their best players. They're going to feed Breece Hall. They are going to feed Garrett Wilson. There is nobody else there in this offense. They're going to give the ball to their best players. You do not want to come in as a new head coach and give the ball to two day three guys who didn't really do anything in their rookie seasons and leave Breece Hall on the sidelines. That's just silly to me. I think this is just simple training camp, coach hyping up his guys because it is good. You want to talk up the guys on your team, and it's normal, okay? And I know he came over from the Lions and he wants to utilize the David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs role that they had going on, but I think we even saw from the Lions last year that you're going to give the ball to the best player in the backfield on your team, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs. And they did it down the stretch last year. They started to do it, the middle of the season, just feeding Jahmyr Gibbs. And Breece Hall is going to get the most important touches in this offense. He's going to be the third down back. He's probably going to be the goal line back, I would assume. I don't, maybe Justin Fields vultures a couple of goal line touchdowns, because of his rushing ability. And, just maybe he doesn't score as many touchdowns as he has in the past, but dude, if anything, like Breece Hall is going to be on the field, 70% of the time, just like he was last year. Breece Hall was a 77.5% snap share guy before the Week 12 bye, and we heard last year that he suffered a pretty serious knee injury that didn't get talked about a lot. He came out and said that it really hindered him down the stretch last season, and he played through it. Believe it or not, Breece Hall is the tough dude, and he's not really going to complain about much. And honestly, I don't understand why people are so down on Breece Hall because we know he's talented. We know he's young. Yes, he's not on the Jets, but I mean, he's 24 years old. He just turned 24 years old, and the Jets have the best offensive line maybe that they've ever had, or at least, young talent wise. They drafted Armand Membu with the seventh pick in the draft this past season. They drafted another top 10 tackle in Olu Fashanu in the previous draft. They have Elijah Vera Tucker at guard. They have Joe Tippmann. I mean, they're pretty loaded on the offensive line, and they're going to want to run the ball. We know that the coach coming over from the Lions is going to want to run the ball and want to get the ball into the best player's hands, and that is Breece Hall and that is Garrett Wilson. And I don't think he's going to, like I said, be coming in, giving the ball to Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen like 10 to 15 times a game. And if we go look at Keep Trey Cut, and I know it's not gospel, but he has Kyron Williams and Chase Brown nipping on his heels right now. He's like running back 10. I know it's probably different for everybody, everybody's running back rankings, but he's way too low, and he's a guy I'm buying everywhere. I think that you should absolutely buy on at him. It doesn't make any sense for him to be this low, excuse me. We know how talented he is. We know that he's already led the league in catches as a second-year player at the running back position. We know he has that kind of talent. It could drop a little bit with Justin Fields at quarterback, but then again, it couldn't. We saw Justin Fields a couple of years ago really give the ball a lot to David Montgomery out of the backfield when he was a rookie quarterback. So, I think that the Jets are going to really focus on their best players, and they're going to give the ball to their best players. They're not going to mess around. Okay, Breece Hall is a guy that you should be high on. You should be trading for. You should be trying to get off these Kyron Williams of the world. And moving over, I would even get off of Jonathan Taylor for Breece Hall just because of the age. Breece Hall is going to get a contract after this, barring any crazy injury. And we just know how talented he is. I'm betting on the talent. I'm betting on, the amount of times he's going to get the ball game and just the lack of talent overall in that offense that, at least at the skill positions that they have. So Breece Hall's a guy I'm buying everywhere and a guy you should be too, and you should not be panicking on. Don't listen to this stuff about the coach coming out and saying how he wants to use a 3-man committee. It's not how it's going to work. I think we're going to see pretty early on in preseason and in training camp when they're just, we're going to feed Breece. So that's all I have to say about that. Okay, I want to talk about one of my favorite players right now, during the offseason and kind of in the NFL right now at this point, and it is Jaguars Travis Hunter, wide receiver, cornerback, whatever you want to call him. I'm going to make my argument of what I think he is at this point. But there's been a lot of talk around the league right now if he is going to play mainly corner, if he's going to play mainly receiver. What's he going to do? Is he going to, play mainly defense and moonlight on offense? Is he going to play mainly on offense and moonlight on defense? We don't know. But here's my argument here. The Jaguars traded a future first to move up to select Travis Hunter at number 2. Okay, they traded this year's 2025 first, and they were sitting at the 4-5 pick in the draft. So they are a objectively bad team entering the draft. They traded future first to trade up for Travis Hunter, not a quarterback, a receiver. Okay, they did not trade a future first for a corner. They are going to play Travis Hunter on offense. Liam Cohen has come out and said it. The GM has come out and said it. I trust Liam Cohen and what he has done with the Buccaneers. And we saw Travis Hunter last season in college win the Heisman, but also win the Biletnikoff, which is the best wide receiver in the country. We know what kind of talent he is. If you are a fan or you follow reception perception, Matt Harmon at all, he is the best in the business at scouting wide receivers and exactly what their future outlook looks like. And he has raved about Travis Hunter, about the talent he is. He's the best talent he's seen since Odell Beckham Jr. He is like an all green chart, just talks about how different he is at the position and how different he moves. And this dude wasn't even in, wide receiver meetings last year, and he won the Biletnikoff. So I think that's even crazier. That's an even crazier argument, an even crazier discussion. But I would really exercise caution before thinking about moving Travis Hunter if you're a competing team or if you're worried about it at all. This is the type of talent that doesn't come around very often. Yes, we've never seen a guy play both sides of the ball, but once again, they didn't trade a future first for a guy who's going to play mainly corner. He's going to play on offense. He's got Brian Thomas Jr. on the other side of him, so not all the attention is going to be on Travis Hunter. They're going to scheme plays up for him. They're going to put him in positions to succeed, and they're going to get him the ball. I trust Trevor Lawrence to an extent. I think he has all the talent in the world, and he's going to have 2 really good receivers playing opposite of him. But I would just, once again, exercise caution before moving him. And Travis Hunter is a generational talent, in my opinion. It could be different for everybody. I know people see him as mainly a corner, but once again, guys, he has shown so much at wide receiver to where I am going to be in this camp where Travis Hunter is going to be a huge contributor in Dynasty at the wide receiver position for the majority of his career. It could be frustrating in his rookie season. I get it. He could play some games on defense more than we'd like. But the minute he starts getting dinged up on defense and he starts missing time, I think they're going to transition him to mostly wide receiver. I mean, once again, they didn't trade a future first round pick for a corner. Travis Hunter's going to play wide receiver. He's a really, really, really good wide receiver talent. And as a guy you need to bet on, okay? Trust the talent. Trust your eyes. Trust Matt Harmon. I trust all those guys, and I think you should too. Travis Hunter's a buy for me right now. He's too low. He could rise up even higher, but Travis Hunter's stock up at the moment. It's going to fluctuate throughout the offseason. We're going to see him play on defense. Like, people are going to see him play on defense, an entire practice and completely freak out. But just be patient and just trust the talent that he is and the fact that, all the chatter around the GM and the head coach about how he's going to play mainly wide receiver. So that's all I have to say about Travis Hunter. I'm sure we'll talk about him more this offseason, but Travis Hunter, he's really good. All right, okay. This next one we're going to have a little fun with. And I'm going to throw up a picture of Marvin Harrison Jr., and some of you people may know exactly what I'm referring to when I put this picture up. And it is of Marvin Harrison Jr. showing that he has put on weight and muscle this offseason. And it's funny to me because people have gone like 2 different directions with this. Some people think it's going to really, it's Marvin Harrison stock up for year 2. Like, he's going to have a massive breakout second season. And a lot of people are like, okay, I didn't really care what weight you put on. You didn't produce last year. as much as we wanted you to. There were high expectations. You severely underwhelmed. And I am kind of in that camp. I'm not to that extreme, but what I want to see from Marvin Harrison Jr. this offseason and why something I want people to pay attention to with him is his connection with Kyler Murray. Um, I want to see videos of him in training camp practices. I want to see videos of him in preseason games on the same page with Kyler, connecting on back shoulder balls, connecting on routes over the middle, really utilizing his skills to the highest potential. I don't want to see him on the outside used as the X running wind sprints and, you know, getting balls thrown 15 feet over his head or him getting, in a 50-50 situation with the DB and not coming down with it. I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see the Cardinals be unique with him, move him around the formation. I want to see, Marvin Harrison Jr. just really take a step year two in his rhythm with Kyler, and just his connection with Kyler in general. Okay, I think that's massive for this upcoming season. We already know Trey McBride's probably going to be the number one in this offense, so Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to play second fiddle, but there's high hopes for him in year two. The talent is still there. Matt Harmon talked about how talented he is, and there's still a lot to like about his rookie season, but I'm a little weary about what I saw and about how it exactly translates to the NFL. And quite frankly, at times, he looked a little slow, and that worries me. But I would just take a step. I would take a step back if you looked at that picture and you thought Marvin Harrison, all go for year two. If you own him in Dynasty, I think it's completely fine. I think it's just kind of a funny topic to talk about, but I want you to temper your expectations until we see the Marv and Kyler connection improve. Okay. So that is the last thing I want to talk about today with you guys. A lot more to come. Training camp just started, so we're going to hear a lot more things coming out in the next couple of days. A lot of things are probably going to happen later today that we don't even know about. So yeah, I'm so glad I got to get into the video with you guys, and I am so glad that we are into football season officially. So with that being said, I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.